It's 11:42 p.m. on a Sunday, and you're doing this to yourself again. Laptop open, kitchen table, the overhead light doing that slightly buzzing thing it's done since you moved in. You told yourself you'd go to bed at 10. That was 100 minutes ago. Instead, you're staring at a spreadsheet you built specifically to hurt your own feelings. Column A, your salary. Column B, your age when you started working full-time. Column C, a formula you found on a forum at midnight, written by a stranger with the username ThriftyGoblin92, who you now trust more than your own financial advisor, mostly because you don't have one. You type in your current salary, $61,400. You type in your current age, 34. You type in the age you'd like to retire. You pause here for a second, fingers hovering, and you type 65 because anything smaller feels like a joke you're playing on yourself. You hit enter. The number that comes back is not a number you were prepared for on a Sunday. It is, in fact, not a number you were prepared for on any day, in any month, in any year of your natural life. You read it twice. You lean back. The chair creaks in the exact spot it always creaks, a sound you've stopped noticing until moments like this one, when the universe seems to want you to notice everything. You are going to need to work for another 31 years. At your current rate of saving, which is, to be fair, technically a rate of saving, in the same way a leaky faucet is technically plumbing. You close the laptop. You open it again 4 seconds later because closing it did not, in fact, make the number go away, which feels like a design flaw in laptops generally. Here's the part nobody warns you about. The math doesn't hit you like a gut punch. It hits you like a mosquito bite you didn't notice getting, and then 3 hours later you're lying awake scratching it, and it's the only thing that exists in the entire world. You think about Kevin from accounting, who drives a truck that costs more than your car and your car's replacement combined, and who mentioned once, casually over a shared elevator ride, that he doesn't really worry about retirement, in the tone of a man who has either solved the problem or has simply chosen not to look at it, which, you're realizing tonight, might be the same thing for most people. You think about your own 401k. You open the app, Habit Now, this late-night self-flagellation. $14,200. You've been contributing for 6 years. 6 years, and the number sitting there looks like something you could lose in a bad month at a casino, which, weirdly, is almost less than what you spent on your last 2 vacations combined. And you did not enjoy either of those vacations as much as this thought is currently ruining your Sunday. You do more math because apparently that's just what tonight is for. You calculate how much you spent last year on things that, in hindsight, feel less like purchases and more like small, cheerful acts of self-sabotage. A subscription to an app that generates workout plans you never opened. A second streaming service you got specifically to watch one show, then kept for 11 months out of what can only be described as guilt-based inertia. $16 a month times 11 is a number you don't want to say out loud, mostly because your apartment is very quiet at midnight and sound carries. So you do not cry. You want to, technically, per the video title, but you're 34, and crying over a spreadsheet on a Sunday feels like a specific kind of low you're not ready to commit to. So instead, you do the thing people do when they're one step above crying, which is you get weirdly aggressively motivated for exactly 9 minutes. You open 11 tabs. Index funds, Roth IRA versus traditional. A Reddit thread titled, "I started at 34, am I screwed?" which you click on with the enthusiasm of someone checking if their symptoms match a disease they already suspect they have. The top comment is from a user who started at 38 and is now allegedly fine, which is either deeply reassuring or a lie from a stranger on the internet. And at midnight, you genuinely cannot tell the difference, and honestly, you decide you'll take it either way. You bookmark 4 articles. You will read 0 of them this week. This is a promise you make to yourself with the same sincerity you've made to gym memberships. And some small, tired part of you already knows it. But something does happen. Something small. You open your bank app, the actual bank, not the retirement one, and you look at your checking account balance sitting there like it's minding its own business, $2,340. You've never once asked that number what it's doing for you. It just sits there, like a roommate who pays rent on time but never contributes to the group chat. You transfer $200 into a savings account you opened 2 years ago and have used exactly once for a Vegas trip you still think about sometimes fondly, and sometimes with the specific dread of a man reviewing a crime scene. It is not a big number. $200 will not undo 31 years. $200 will not make Kevin's truck payment disappear or make the mosquito bites stop itching. But it is 11:58 p.m. on a Sunday, and it is, for the first time in longer than you'd like to admit, a decision instead of a drift. Monday morning, you do not mention any of this to anyone, because what would you even say? Hey, I did some retirement math last night and had a small emotional event over a spreadsheet is not a sentence that improves small talk by the coffee machine. Kevin is there actually, pouring coffee, wearing the specific expression of a man whose truck payment is, unbeknownst to him, currently the villain of your internal monologue. He asks how your weekend was. You say fine. He says his was good too. He test drove a boat. You go back to your desk. You open the retirement calculator again on your lunch break, which you're aware is a strange thing to do to yourself twice in 12 hours, like poking a bruise just to confirm it's still there. You change one number. You bump your contribution from 4% to 7%. The number at the bottom shifts. Not dramatically, not enough to write home about, but your retirement age drops from 65 to 61, and for reasons you can't entirely explain, that 4-year difference feels like it matters more than it should, mathematically speaking, given that you don't even know if you'll want to stop working at 61, or if you'll be one of those people who golfs for 6 months and then starts a consulting business out of sheer boredom. You submit the change to HR before you can talk yourself out of it. The confirmation email arrives 40 seconds later. No fanfare, no confetti animation, just a subject line that says, "Contribution election confirmed," which is, frankly, one of the least emotionally satisfying sentences the English language has ever produced for a moment that felt, internally, enormous. 3 weeks later, you cancel the second streaming service. You watch the cancellation confirmation with something close to ceremony, which is a strange thing to feel about a website. But there you are. You do not become a different person. This is important to say, because these stories usually pretend you wake up the next day speaking fluent finance and eating rice and beans out of principle. You still buy coffee most mornings. You still, on one particularly weak Thursday, buy a $34 candle because it smelled like a fireplace and you were sad about something unrelated to money entirely. The math does not care about your feelings. It just sits there, patiently, running in the background, the way it always has, the way it will whether or not you're paying attention to it. But you check the retirement app now on Sundays. Same time, roughly. It's become a small, quiet ritual, less painful than the first night, more like checking the weather. $14,200 becomes $15,100 over 4 months, most of it your own doing, some of it the market doing whatever the market does, which you've decided to stop personally overseeing because watching it daily was doing nothing for your blood pressure and even less for your productivity. Kevin gets a new truck. You see it in the parking lot, larger than the last one, somehow, in the way trucks apparently must always grow if given enough time and financing options. You feel nothing about this, which surprises you a little. Not superiority, not smugness, just nothing, which might be the actual goal here, when you think about it. Not being richer than Kevin, just not lying awake doing math about a stranger's truck at midnight anymore. Here's the part that's genuinely, quietly funny, if you let it be. The math that made you want to cry on a Sunday didn't actually change that night. Nothing about your salary changed. Nothing about your age changed. The only thing that changed was that you looked at it on purpose with the lights on, instead of feeling it vaguely in the back of your skull every time your card got declined for something dumb. The number is still not where you want it. It probably won't be for years. You are not going to retire at 45 in some cabin with a view, reading books you've always meant to read. That was never actually the plan, if you're honest. It was just a nice thing to imagine while ignoring a spreadsheet. But somewhere in the last few weeks, the dread turned into something closer to a project. Not exciting, exactly. Not a montage set to music. Just a slightly higher contribution percentage, a canceled subscription, a $200 transfer that turned into another one, and then a smaller, quieter version of the panic that started all of this. You still do the math sometimes. Late, kitchen table, same buzzing light. But you don't close the laptop in horror anymore. You just adjust one number, watch the other number move, and go to bed. Which, it turns out, was always the whole exercise. Not crying over the math, just doing something about it before the next Sunday arrives and asks you the same question all over again.